All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Cassie Watts. I am the Assistant Director of Student Engagement and Success. And I want to, first of all, thank our admissions office for the opportunity to, for us to come to you and to share a little bit more about the program that we offer here at Western Michigan University. We represent the College of Health and Human Services, and I will be one of hopefully three actually, individuals that will be part of this group panel. And so what we want to do, we'll take your questions as we go along. And so myself, I'll introduce the next person and I'll let her tell you a little bit about her. And then we'll go ahead and get everything started. Jenna, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi guys. Welcome to our virtual panel. My name is Jenna and I'm a senior studying speech pathology and audiology. And I have a minor in Spanish. So I'm graduating in 7 days. And then I'm going on to grad school. So I don't know that we're gonna have grad school questions, but hypothetically, if there are, I could answer those as well. But yeah, I work in the college, I work in the dean's office. I've also worked with Cassie in student success and with the anatomage table, which we'll talk about. So yeah, if you have any student related questions, I'd love to answer them.
Awesome, awesome, very good. Thanks, Jenna. So Jenna will come in a little bit later during the presentation. She'll share a little bit more about her experience as an undergraduate student and on campus in the city of Kalamazoo in general. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Tracy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tracy Korstange. I'm the academic advisor for the Bronson School of Nursing.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thanks, Tracy. So the gang's all here, y'all. What we're going to do is go ahead and get started with the presentation. And like I said, we'll try to capture your questions as we go along. So let's go ahead and get started on the presentation. All right, and I'm gonna mute your line, Tracy, so that we can have the optimal volume and virtual experience with regard to the audio.
Okay,
right, so, the College of Health and Human Services, welcome to Western Wednesday. All right, so moving on to the presentation. Okay, so like I said, there are three of us on the line. I represent the Student of Engagement and Success. We've got Tracy from the Bronson School of Nursing, and of course we have Jenna, our student perspective. Just as a refresher, you probably already know of the programs and the degrees and the programs that we offer here in the College of Health and Human Services. Healthcare Services and Sciences is the Bachelor's of Science degree, with the focus on several concentration areas: Audiology Prep, Blindness and Low Vision, Occupational Therapy, Physical Therapy, and Physician Assistant. Then there's the Public Health, Speech Pathology and Audiology, Social Work, and also Nursing. And to the right of the screen, you'll see some various occupations that fall within these categories of our programs. Just in case you didn't know that the College of Health and Human Services is home to nationally ranked graduate programs. That's right. These are national ranked programs as per the U.S. News and World Reports: Occupational Therapy, Social Work, Speech, Language, and Pathology, Audiology, and also the Rehabilitation Counseling programs. Something that we're very, very proud of. Now, let's focus in on a little bit about what we do in the Office of Student Engagement and Success. So the Office of Student Engagement and Success, we are one of probably about 5 across the campus that we offer to our students. This is a service. And the service is how we can help our students be the absolute best they can be in their programs while providing them with skills and services and coaching and support they need. As you can see, the student is in the center of the whole thing. We're talking academic, physical, emotional, your purpose, social, and professional development. The Student Engagement and Success Office takes a holistic approach to how we help all of our students. And that holistic approach starts with strategy. And that strategy is very unique to everyone. We all have our own strengths and the opportunity areas that we need to grow. And this programming is customized to meet your specific needs. Also, coaching. We have success coaches that work with our students, and coach is exactly what it is. There are strategies that you need to develop in order to become successful here in post-secondary education. What I'm saying is what you used to do in high school, you may have to enhance it a bit, or you may have to strengthen it a bit, or you may have to try a different approach, because what used to work for you prior to getting into college may not work for you. So you might need to make some adjustments in how you study and how you prepare for your assignments. Writing. So all of that comes into play when you make that transition to from high school to college. And then the other piece of it is connections. We want to make sure that our students are connected to all of the resources necessary for you to be successful. And engagement is another piece of it. Western Michigan University, especially when it comes to health and human services, is a strong advocate of volunteering. Volunteer to support the community, volunteer to inside and outside of campus. So that's a big part of what we do. And you'll see a little bit more on how you can get more engaged in the next slide. Supplemental. What do we mean by supplemental? Well, you may need some additional classes, if you will, or additional programs to help you enhance some of the skills that you already have. For example, writing. Writing research papers is going to be a little different than what you used to write in high school. So you're going to need to get some supplemental education with regard to how do you write your best paper in college? Research papers, case studies, and such. It's going to be a little different. So we have writing centers to make sure that our students have access to that additional supplemental support to help with writing. Time management. Campus offers success seminars, and these seminars are voluntary. So the seminars are used by students to kind of help with developing and strengthening some skills that you already have, but you want to make it a little bit better. For example, time management. How do you manage your time? Now you're in college, it's going to be a little different. You're going to have, it seems like you're going to have more time on your hands, but there's a very strategic way in order how to manage your time in order to get the most out of your studying. And then also skills. In the College of Health and Human Services, it's very important that our students learn life skills. And these life skills also have to do with finances. How do you manage your money? How do you budget? Also, skills on how to critical thinking skills, case studies. How do you talk and work through some of those? This is part of the programming that the Office of Student Engagement has, and we offer to all of our students in order to help them. Again, this is a very unique programming specifically targeted for your particular needs. So we encourage all of our students to not only develop what they call an academic plan, but also you need to develop a professional plan, so professional development. So it's all about getting ready as you progress through your programs, getting ready for ultimately having a job interview. Prior to that, getting that resume ready, and also getting you ready to network and meet with potential employers. So it's a progressive process that is intentionally designed to help students along the way. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. And then that piece about engagement is really key. These are just a snapshot of some of the programming that we encourage our students to connect with. WMU Signature is one amazing way the students can get connected and engage with what's going on campus as well as off campus. Integrative, holistic health and wellness. It's all about mind and body and making sure that there's a balance to what we do. We're so fortunate to have that discipline within our college, so you have access to mindful meditation, yoga, and such. There's also included some of the student organizations as well. There's the pre-PA, there's social work, there's also audiology and speech path. So these programs are intentionally designed to help our undergraduate students be connected to individuals within their program, as well as learn how to navigate and understand what's next and required to be successful beyond college. Professional development is a major piece of how do we build our own professional brand. As soon as you get to college, you're starting to develop what your personhood is. And professional development is a way in which students can make a continuous effort to creating that professional brand for themselves going forward. Academic success coaching is key in terms of being very strategic. We have coaches on staff to help students along the way. And I mentioned the writing center. So I have study abroad here. I'd like for Jenna to go ahead and share a little bit about her study abroad experience.
Yeah, so at Western, we have countless programs. We have short-term faculty-led that usually go in the summer or sometimes over breaks like spring break. There's week-long ones there. Then we also have long-term that are 2 months, 4 months, which would be a semester, and year-long. So they're all over the world. We have specific study abroad advisors for specific continents and specific countries. So as you have specific questions, there's a whole study abroad office that can answer questions. And then every fall and spring, there's a study abroad fair. And you can't miss it if you're on main campus. It takes over the whole Sangren building, the whole big glass building if you've toured campus. And they have information for every program, obviously. And then they also have a lot of information for scholarships and ways that you can get funding for that. So I did a 2-week study abroad trip right after my freshman year. I studied abroad in Urubamba, Peru. And that was to fulfill one of my gen ed requirements. There's an area 3 that you'll talk about with your advisor that is focused on learning more about like other cultures, other countries, etc. So that fit in perfectly. And then, like I said, my minor is Spanish. So they don't require, but they do recommend you study abroad if you have a second language as your minor. So this past summer, I got to study abroad in Santander, Spain. And that was 2 months. So a little bit different than 2 weeks, but obviously pros and cons to different time lengths and obviously different continents. And yeah, so I can't recommend studying abroad enough. I'm a first generation college student, so we didn't know if it was going to be possible or how that would work. And Western's study abroad office helped me in every way. So if you have questions, they're a great resource, but you can also look for the study abroad fairs every semester.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. And that's so cool because 2 different study abroad experience, short-term, long-term. So short-term is a wonderful way to get your feet wet. And long-term also could help you meet some of those requirements as part of your study. So thanks, Jenna.
Yes.
All right, moving on. This is a picture of one of our professors working with students in the anonymized table. The anonymized table is it's a 3D imaging table of scanned bodies, and it features all of the systems of the body. And there's thousands of scanned pathology cases in there, and also it includes things like each one of the systems. This is 3D. It's very engaging, and also out of, let's see, the majority of our programs in the College of Health and Human Services requires that a student takes anatomy, supplemental. So I mentioned something about earlier about supplemental education. So you have anatomy class, there's anatomy lab. Well, guess what? We have an anatomized table that we have coaches, trained coaches work on the table with students, and you can test yourselves with each one of the systems. The really cool part about it is we have the case studies as well as some presets, what we call modules, for each one of the systems that one would take in their anatomy class. You can go in and practice. It's very interactive. It's a 3D model, and it is a very nice supplemental to the anatomy education that is required for the programs. And this tool, I can't say enough about it because it is just such a dynamic tool. I have a couple of pictures. Unfortunately, I can't do an interactive or live show slide with this one, but one other way that we can take a look at this is there's a couple of TED Talks on it, which is kind of cool, on the anatomized table, what it's all about. I'll share a little bit more about that table anyway, but anyway, it brings your coursework to life in a wonderful dynamic way that will not only add some of that supplemental, but it's also another way of learning, and which is just a cool feature that we offer for all of our students on campus, but it happens to reside in the College of Health and Human Services building. Right, so those cool images that I mentioned, for example, this is the brain, and you see all of the slides, and let's see, you can dissect this part of the brain, you can pin it. If you want to do a test, you can move it around, you can separate it. It's annotated, so you see the name of each one of the pieces of the brain, so it's just dynamic. And coloring is just so beautiful. Again, another way of learning anatomy in a fun way. This is one of the pictures of the images of a spinal cord. There are 4 bodies that have been scanned into that anatomized table, so it is dynamic. And again, this is one of the supplementals that we offer to all of our students. And then, okay, so that's the end of the slideshow presentation. So before we go into just some general questions, or I better see what we have on board. Do we have any questions? Let's take a look. See, how long does it take to be trained to use the anonymized table? Well, it just depends on the individual. So, for example, there's 15 weeks in a semester, right? And typically in 15 weeks, there's about 14 modules, if you will. So for each one of the modules will be a system. A system could be the nervous system. It could be the internal organs. It could be the skeletal system. So it just depends upon your own pace. But I don't know, Jenna, do you have any perspective on what it would take? Or it just kind of depends upon the system that you're studying?
Yeah, I think it depends on the system. We work, thankfully there's coaches there always. There's office hours Monday through Friday, basically the whole school day. So it's the anatomy part that you'll have to keep learning, but I think once you use the table once or twice, you'll understand. The coaches were there if you have questions, but I think you can get the hang of it in a couple hours, learning how to, you can dissect on it, you can label it in different ways. You can use different bodies to compare and contrast them. But anatomy will take some learning, take some effort. But as far as learning how to navigate the table, I'd say just an hour or two with the help of a coach.
Right, right. Mm-hmm. All right. So the other question is, so anyone can use the table at any time. We do have what we call open hours, for lab hours. So there is usually Monday through Friday at various times. Opens about 9 o'clock in the morning and may close at 6. So you'll be able to find some time to get in to use the table. All right, so I have another question. So when you mean anybody can use the table, do you mean anyone on campus at all can walk through and use it? Students, if you are a registered student, student in university, absolutely, you can use the table, even if you're coming from another program or another discipline. So biomedical science students come in to use the table as well. So it's open to any student or faculty or graduate student in the college. So will most of our first year classes be in the Health and Human Service building, or does it depend? Your classes will, not most of them, maybe 1 or 2 of them will be in Health and Human Services, but for the most part, you will have classes on main campus. But when you get into your program, would say 90 to 100% of your classes will be in the College of Health and Human Service building. I know the building is located on East Campus, which seems like it's a hike, but it's such a convenient ride. The bus comes, I think, every 20 or 30 minutes. So it's a constant flow of transportation that comes through there, drops you off at the curb, and then picks you up, you know, within that time frame. The buses run all times of days, Monday through Friday. So no problems there getting on campus.
And for me, I was undecided. That my major was undecided for the first year. And I had a pretty similar schedule with my friends who had already declared a major within CHHS. I think all of us kind of the same, had 1, maybe 2 classes at CHHS our first year. And now the majority, if not all of our classes are at CHHS. I think the only way you wouldn't have all of your classes, as far as I know, the only way you might not have all of your classes there, your like senior year, for example, is if you have a minor on main campus. So like I studied Spanish. So I was mostly at CHHS, but I'd be at Brown on main campus every now and then.
Oh, so what are some of the classes we'll be taking our freshman year? That's a good question. Well, I can't speak to what classes you'll be taking. I will say that our academic advising portion of the Western Wednesday is coming up at the end of the month. So I would rather hold that question for them, because it may be very specific to your particular major of interest. So I can't answer that question, but I'm sure that you'll be able to get that question answered with that our advising team. Now, unless Jenna, do you have perspective on maybe a class or 2 that's required for all freshmen?
What was the question? Sorry.
So the question is, what are some of the classes we'll be taking our freshman year?
Okay. Yeah. Well, it depends on your major. I don't know if the person who asked that question wants to put in what they're gonna be studying. It just says anonymous.
Right. It's anonymous. Yeah. So it just may depend upon your major, and also what you come in with. I mean, you may have some credits that may transfer. So there's some classes that you may not need to try. Oh, there's nursing. So it's nursing. All right. Tracy, would you be able to speak a little bit?
Absolutely. So for nursing students, and as well as probably the majority of our programs, we have prerequisites that students need to take. So our focus for nursing students is to get those prerequisites done to be ready to apply to the program. We want you to be able to apply as soon as possible. So depending on where you're coming in, depend on what you would need. But typically we have an English course, you're going to have sociology, psychology, then we have sciences, anatomy, physiology, and some chemistries. So we're going to focus on getting those done to get you ready to apply to that program. And then other general education requirements that you'll have to graduate, we mix those in throughout the program.
I'm interested in occupational therapy and psychology. Would I be at a disadvantage if I majored in psychology instead of pre-occupational therapy? That's a very good question.
I could speak a little bit to that, Cassie.
Okay.
So from an advising standpoint, I'm nursing. So again, I'd want you to check with your advisors, but I would want you to talk to the occupational therapy or the College of Health and Human Services advising folks, as well as psychology. If you're deciding between the two, I typically recommend students start working towards the one that would have competitive admission or admission requirements, or the other one you could filter those classes in as well. But you could talk to both, and sometimes we can work it where students can be working towards two different programs for the first year or two until they decide what they want to do too. So it just takes a little extra communication, but it's possible.
Okay. The next question is, when do I have to apply to be in our program for nursing? When would a student need to apply for the program?
Well, we have prerequisites that the students need to take. So we have 8 courses that are prerequisite requirements. So as soon as they get those done, it can be done in as fast as a year or less, depending on what students are coming in with, but typically they apply after their first year at Western. It varies on the program though, so it's going to depend what their prerequisite requirements are as to when they can apply to those programs.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And again, the our advisors specifically for those programs would be able to speak more specifically to that, for example, with Tracy in nursing. The next question, for someone aspiring to be somewhere in the medical field, but a bit undecided, would physician assistant preparation be recommended to take, and how would it help? Okay, so physician assistant is an excellent route to take. It just depends on your path. Now, we have to consider several things, and this is just you kind of thinking about what's the path you want to take. I always recommend students to have an A, a B, and a C path. It's like A, B, or C plan. So when you look at physician assistants, for example, look at the pathway to take in order to get through that program. Of course, you know you're going to need to go to graduate school in order to, you need to be accepted to the physician assistant program. And so I think that's another 18 months or so. And then after that, then could possibly be medical school. So it's just kind of mapping out what that route would take for each one of them. And ultimately, you gotta you wanna focus on, ultimately, where do I wanna be? If it means that ultimately you want to be a dermatologist, look at the 3 pathways that it takes in order to get there. Physician assistant is an excellent route to take because it will allow you to get some of that experience. You need clinical and working in in that setting prior to getting into applying for medical school. So have a conversation with the academic advisor. Look at what different paths you want to take in order to get there. How much time, again, about that planning in terms of the resources it's going to require, and also the time it's going to take to ultimately get to the goal, the goal you're trying to reach. I hope that answered the question. So on the next question. On my application, I have a pre-occupational therapy, but I wanted to change it to pre-physical therapy. I emailed someone about a week ago about this change, and I haven't gotten a response back from them about this. So then we want to make sure that we get you connected with the pre-therapy, let's see, advisor. All right, so make sure that, Jenna, if you can look up the
Actually, Cassie, if they contact the Office of Admissions, they'll change that for them.
Okay,
And
through
with
the
this,
Office of Admissions?
yeah, the Office of Admissions, it would be the department to change that. And with us working remotely, there may be a delay in people getting back to you. A week's a little bit much, but sometimes there's a delay in people responding.
There you go. All right, Jaden. So reach out to the Office of Admission, indicate the changes you want to make. And again, that's going to be the go-to resource before you actually physically get on campus. So, and again, timing in terms of folks responding may be a little delayed. All right, sorry about that, but we'll get you back on track. All right, so the next question is, if I already have taken physiology and anatomy and psychology at the community college, do you think I would have to take those classes at Western? That's going to depend on the conversation that you have with the advisor. Would you say, Tracy?
Correct. The advisor would need to check and make sure that the courses that you completed were equivalent to our courses, but I could speak for psychology. If you took Intro to Psychology at community college, it's Intro to Psychology at Western. So they would just need to compare the classes you've taken to make sure they're equivalent. But if they come in as a direct equivalent of that course, then no, you would not need to retake that. The university, when you send your transcripts to Western, you'll get a credit evaluation, which will show you how those come in. And then when you attend orientation, you also want to bring that information, and then the advisors will make sure that you don't schedule something that you've already taken.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so next question. When would I apply for my professional classes in speech path? When would I apply for my professional classes in speech path?
I can speak to this one.
Okay, thank you.
So for the program for speech pathology, so there's a 2-year program. You usually do it your junior or senior year is what's typical. And so they also have prereqs like the nursing program that Tracy mentioned. So you would do the prereq classes, I think there's 5 or 6. And then you would apply, typically, of course it is different for every student, but typically students would finish those prereqs and a lot of their gen ed, those classes, and then they would apply their sophomore year spring semester. And so then you would start fall semester of junior year, and then it's a 2-year program, and then you can go on from there, but that'll kind of complete your undergrad. But yeah, I'm so glad there's a speech path. I'm a little biased, but yeah, it's a great program. Yeah, let us know if you have more specific questions, but typically you'd apply the end of sophomore year, and then it would be your last 2 years of undergrad.
All right, so thanks, Jenna. So there was a question about what are some of the graduate programs after undergrad? Oh yes, we have quite a few. All right, so occupational therapy, social work, speech pathology, audiology. There's also a rehabilitation. There's, I don't want to forget it. We have, let's see, a total of 56, sorry, let me back up a minute. Graduate, master's. Okay, I want to make sure I get my list for you. So what do we have here? Scoot over here a little to the side so I can be honest. And all right. All right, so excuse me. Uh-oh, I think I just clicked myself right out of Zoom, so hang on, let me get back in. Or at least to my screen where I can see, okay. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty here. All right, so back at it again. All right, so occupational therapy, physical therapy, physician assistant, of course, the speech language and pathology, there's the social work, master's, as well as the blindness, low vision, and audiology. Social work, of course, did I mention that? And also there's a public health master, if I'm correct. Hopefully I got them all listed here. But certainly we do have these all listed on our webpage that you'll be able to see what programs move on into the to the master's level.
They said, I think my major is down as communication instead of communication sciences and disorders. How do I change this?
Again, as Tracy mentioned earlier, you can reach out to the admissions office and they'll be happy to make that change for you in your records.
And then we had another question. Would clinicals for speech path start junior year, and how many hours would I need to complete? I could take this one. So we're one of the few undergrads that allow undergraduate students to work in the clinic because we have an on-campus clinic. We have a really cool history of speech path in Kalamazoo too. We're one of the first speech pathology programs in the United States, and so our clinic is named after Charles Van Riper, who kind of started that. So yeah, it's very rare that we have an on-campus clinic and that undergrad students can participate in therapy before they're in their graduate programs. So would clinical start junior year? Yes, that's typically that first year in the program is typically when you would start observations. So you would observe through a two-way mirror therapy conducted by a graduate student and a client or a group of clients, whatever it may be. And then senior year, your second year in the program, is when you would go and do your clinical practicum. And so for our governing board for speech path, you would need 25 hours of observation. That would be your junior year, and the clinic make sure that that's all taken care of for you. All the math, you don't have to do the math. And then your senior year, the second year of the program, when you do your practicum, it's just as many hours as are possible. So usually 10, 20, somewhere in there is what they aim for, but just as many as possible, and then that'll go towards your graduate degree. So yes.
So another question, how difficult would it be to double major in Spanish and pre-occupational therapy? Good question. Well, Jenna, what would you say? How difficult would that be?
I think if you have, as long as you know what your goals are and you know what the expectations are before you go in, and the occupational therapy advisor, I think it's doable as long as you set your goals and expectations out from the beginning and know what you're getting yourself into. I think that's a really awesome combination. Yeah, I would just recommend emailing both, and then maybe once we can, meeting with both advisors, but at least start by sending them both an email, as well as, I guess I would just start by emailing both advisors and then looking at the requirements for both programs and seeing if you think that's doable. Another thing to factor in is if you want to, like, how many years do you want to be in your undergrad? Because it's totally doable. It just might take a little bit longer than the four-year route. So yeah, I would start by emailing both advisors, but I think that's an awesome combination personally.
Yeah, and again, doable, but it also requires planning. So thanks, Jenna. So good advice in terms of reaching out to both of the advisors in order to understand what some of those requirements are, and then chart out your plan. So I am interested in what part of the country the students are dialing in from. I'm always curious. As you know, our campus is in Southwest Michigan. Weather is, I truly can say, I've lived in several different places. This is one place that I really can say we actually do see all four seasons, which is phenomenal. And in terms of the the city itself in Kalamazoo is the right size. And it is very accommodating in terms of shows, dining, recreational, everything else in between. Some really, really cool place to live. And I think I've been here a little over 7 years. So Jenna, have you lived here your whole life?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Been dealing with the crazy weather for a while. It was spring yesterday and it snowed today. We'll see what happens tomorrow.
Indeed, indeed. All right. And any other perspective, Tracy, from a nursing standpoint?
Oh, just from the area, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Kalamazoo is a great location. Typically when I have students in for tours, we talk about how at Western you get to experience the large campus atmosphere with your gen ed classes and your prerequisites. But then I feel like you also get to experience smaller, more private college experience with your classes in the College of Health and Human Services because you spend quite a bit of time there.
Right.
And we have 2 large hospitals. We've got Bronson and Borges Hospital. We also have access to the VA in Battle Creek, and we have the Kalamazoo Psychiatric Hospital. So we have access to large facilities, small facilities, state-run facilities, and federal facilities, which provide a lot of excellent clinical experiences, which I would assume are important in all the majors. Those clinical experiences give you that piece that you need to build before you're out on your own. So making sure you have access to those is very important.
Yeah, and that's such a neat programming we have here in terms of how do we get our students prepared for after you graduate, and all of that experience happens right here in the city. So it looks like we have someone from Chicago, Kalamazoo, of course, Northwest Indiana, and Niles, Michigan. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. So, but from a student engagement standpoint, it's very important that we, as an incoming freshman or a transfer student, that is so key to make sure that you can get connected. That's part of your success. So many times students come on campus and feel like they're alone, and when you're really not. It really just takes a little bit of effort to get connected, but once you do, from a full college experience, not only from a academics, but also professional development and from a social standpoint. The campus has pretty much everything you need in order to thrive. And like Jenna said, with regard to study abroad, if you have an interest in that, and from the clinical to social, and also to the success coaching. Also, tutoring is another major source that we have on campus, and tutoring labs are on main campus, and we also have some tutoring on in our building as well. We also want to make sure that the students feel like if they need some extra supplementary help with regard to their classwork, it's definitely there for you. Definitely there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another resource for students I want to highlight just because I loved it so much. Fall Welcome is if they have Fall Welcome this year, you'll learn about a ton of different RSOs, which are essentially, we called them clubs in high school, but at Western they're called registered student organizations. So you'll hear, we have hundreds, there's so many. So you can get involved that way. And then what's really unique about CHHS specifically is that we have these pre-professional programs, and I know Cassie touched on it in the PowerPoint, but they have them for every major, I believe, within the college. At least I know nursing and OT and speech path and audiology, and those are really cool ways to get involved, to meet people who are within your major, who are also a little bit older than you, that can mentor you, tutor you, but it's a really cool way to meet people that can help you through your major, as well as meet peers maybe before you get into your program. It's a great way to meet up with people, find people to study with. I know a lot of them also do a ton of volunteering if you need volunteer hours or if you just enjoy that. but yeah, there's a lot of advocacy, volunteering, leadership opportunities. You can be on the board. Yeah, it's just a great way to get involved, and their programs and groups that are kind of held to a little bit of a higher standard than just the regular RSOs, because they are pre-professional. So yeah, I would definitely look into those when you get here. Tracy, we have another nursing question. They said, as a nursing and honors student, what learning community should I consider while choosing my dorm?
I would say that that's up to student preference. I believe you'd have the option for the living learning community with the College of Health and Human Services majors or honors college. I would say it just depends on, what you're more comfortable with. You could reach out to some students. I'm trying to think of how you could get a perspective from students. I would talk to housing too. Housing knows what more students select, but also looking at where the location is of the building and if you want to walk more to certain places than others. I think it's just up to personal preference, really.
I know a lot of CHHS students typically live in Valley 2. I think that's where the health majors are at. And then I know the honors college, at least when I was in the dorms, was in Valley 3. Both are good. Then they're both right by the new dining center, so that's a perk. But I think you'll get a mix of students no matter where you are. Yeah, I would like Tracy said, contact the housing people, but both were really good, and both have quiet hours based on when you want to study and all of that. But as far as Valley 2 versus Valley 3, I think they were both really, really great.
Let's see, moving on. I think, as I mentioned before, there is another Western Wednesday specifically hosted by the College of Health and Human Services. The focus area would be academic advising. So there'll be more specifics with regard to academic advising from our advisors on that call on the 29th of April at 3 p.m. 29th, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, well, just want to point out a couple other things that we do specifically for our students in the College of Health and Human Services. A couple times a year we get together and do either a volunteer event or we do another event that's called Bronco Brain Break. And this is so important in terms of health and wellness. Week prior to finals, the group hosts therapy dogs, mindful meditation, and in some cases we get really fortunate enough to have a yoga session. And the intention is for all of our students to take a breather, relax a minute, take care of themselves, self-care, and in form of therapy dogs. So therapy dogs and donuts and therapy dogs and frozen treats. So it happens twice a year, once in the spring and the other in the fall. And that's when the dogs take over the atrium for a couple of hours, and our students, faculty and staff enjoy some of that wonderful time loving on the pets. And they've been such a wonderful support for the community. In fact, the dogs come from the community in Michigan, and they travel to the Health and Human Services building to spend that time with us and our students. So it's one of those welcome benefits and perks that we have as part of our programming, and also just a way to reach out to our students to show how much we care about them and that we're all in this together, and it means to what it means to take care of each other. It certainly has been a wonderful opportunity to share with you a little bit about what we do in student engagement, nursing, as well as our student perspective. So we are excited about what's to come, even though it's a little different in terms of getting connected, but I am very hopeful that we'll be able to be in a position where we see each other in the fall, hopefully, and be able to get to some of those programmings that we highlighted in the presentation that for all of our students to enjoy. Okay, if there are no other questions, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. You all take really good care of yourself, and we hope to see you in the fall. Take care, everyone.
All right, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.